A few weeks ago, a number of concerning videos began circulating on TikTok showing a toddler referred to as Totu, who many users believe is being abused. In a relatively short space of time, Totu appears to have transformed from a normal, happy and healthy child into one that is terrified, underweight, and often has bruises or other marks on her body. And although staff at the shelter she lives in have claimed this is due to various health conditions, most who have been following the case aren't convinced. Let's investigate. If you enjoy internet mysteries and generally disturbing content, feel free to subscribe and turn on notifications for more content like this. If you're interested in supporting the channel, you can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to gain access to uncut videos and other perks. Or you can leave me a tip by clicking the thanks under this video. Thanks to anyone who considers this. This video will contain discussions of topics that some might find triggering. Viewer discretion is advised. You can become a Ko-fi member or a channel member to watch an uncut version of this video which features extra details that were unsuitable for this cut. Few details are known about Totu before she gained traction on TikTok. Her real name is Ayshun. She appears to be around 2 or 3 years old, and she and her mother were living in a shelter in Baku, Azerbaijan. It's hard to verify any other details, as almost all the information that is known comes from TikTok videos that also throw in speculation and assumptions that may or may not be true. Videos of Totu as a younger baby are not particularly alarming. She can be seen smiling, playing with toys. She looks happy and healthy, with a full head of hair. There is a stark difference between these videos and more recent clips where she looks sad, scared, at times even traumatised, perhaps underweight, with chunks of her hair missing, and the rest chopped unevenly, with cuts and bruises on her face and body, and even what some claim are cigarette burns on her legs. So what happened in between these two extremes? It's not entirely clear, but there are countless worrying hints that might give us an idea of what is happening to her. There are various rumours suggesting why Totu was in the shelter in the first place, one of which is that her father abandoned her and her mother and she needed help raising Totu. Another is that Totu's mother left an abusive relationship. I haven't found anything solid to back up any of these claims, so I'm not sure where these rumours come from if they're not just assumptions. Apparently, Totu's mother actually appeared on a TV show claiming that Totu's father refused to pay child support and she wasn't able to take care of her alone, so the show arranged for them both to stay in the shelter. I haven't actually seen the show and I don't speak Azerbaijani, but this seems the most credible explanation. It was also revealed in the show that Totu's father is a drug addict and her mother is a sex worker who would leave Totu with other people while she worked. At one point, there were other children in the shelter too, and photos and videos have emerged showing Totu interacting with them. Sometimes there appears to be no cause for concern. With no context, you might assume these were candid clips of a normal family around a dinner table. In others, the children all look miserable and appear to have bruises and marks all over their bodies. It seems that in 2022, most of the children were removed from the shelter. It had been investigated due to allegations of abuse made by 2 girls who stayed there, making a number of claims including that they weren't allowed to change clothes when they wet themselves, then were locked in a basement, and that the owner of the shelter burnt their hands when they touched something they weren't supposed to. It was also alleged that staff kept donations that were given to the shelter for themselves, rather than spending them on the children. According to some sources, evidence was found suggesting that minors had been subjected to mental and physical violence during their stays, hence they were removed. However, one child remained there, Totu. It has been suggested that this was because she was the only child who stayed there with her mother, but then I've also heard that all of the children were there with their mothers, so I'm not really sure what to believe. The owner of the shelter is apparently the daughter of a former First Deputy Prime Minister in Azerbaijan, so if the allegations were true, it seems that there might be some corruption here. Considering Totu's apparent physical deterioration, and once again, if the allegations are true, it seems that things took a downward turn for her when there were no other children there to share the alleged abuse, and according to a Medium.com article, her mother eventually left the orphanage without her to live with her boyfriend instead. Other sources state that the shelter refused to allow Totu's mother to visit her, meaning her alleged abusers were the only ones taking care of her. It's hard to form a fully coherent and chronological narrative here because the information is also scattered. There are no comprehensive articles that tell the story from start to finish, and most of the videos on TikTok are clips of Totu with an analysis of her appearance or behaviour without much context. What makes it even harder is that most of the videos covering this situation have been taken down. Many of the accounts dedicated to spreading awareness have even been suspended. At first, I wondered if this was because the owner of the shelter was reporting them, and that certainly could account for some, but there also seems to be beef between different people who have been covering the story. To cut a long, confusing story short, there has been a lot of misinformation spread by some creators on TikTok. Other creators have called them out. People have been accused of using the situation for clout and sensationalizing the details, and they've all reported each other's videos. Anyway, I'll do my best to address some of the main clips that made people concerned for Totu's welfare in the first place. Perhaps the most worrying video showed her stood, trembling, seemingly frozen in shock, eyes wide open, staring into the distance with a terrified look on her face and what appears to be a cut on her nose. Someone starts feeding her soup and she eats it without moving. Her eyes are still fixed on whatever she's staring at, and beyond opening her mouth slightly, she doesn't even react to the food. It was a short clip, posted without context, so I have no idea what's going on, but it just made me feel really uneasy and sad for her. She looks absolutely traumatized. Others felt the same, and some commenters believed this behaviour was a perfect example of disassociation, because she isn't really responding to her surroundings and seems to be in shock. This could be because of things in general that are happening in her life, or maybe she was filmed right after a traumatic incident. I even found a couple of similar comments from people who had either experienced SA as children themselves, or who had worked with child SA victims, who claim that this kind of behaviour is common in children who have experienced such things. There are many videos where Totu looks to be scared of whoever is filming her. She often has a similar, terrified expression and sometimes starts to shake slightly, or breathe more rapidly when someone is talking to her. And while this video is the most significant example, if it does show her disassociating, there are other instances of this too. Staff at the shelter claimed that Totu suffers with epilepsy and that this video was filmed shortly after or during a seizure, an explanation that has been highly disputed. I'm not a doctor, so I honestly have no idea if that could explain it, but if that is the case, I don't get why they'd be feeding her, especially during a seizure. I can't see that being the wisest of decisions. They've also claimed that Totu suffers with other health problems to explain her physical deterioration, and there are a few videos of her either in a hospital bed or having what appears to be an EEG, a test often performed on people with epilepsy to record electrical activity in the brain. So this seemingly confirms that she does have epilepsy, though not everyone was convinced, with some saying it didn't look like a hospital and that it was staged, which I think is a bit of a stretch. Another particularly worrying thing that people have noticed in videos is how Totu can often be seen with her mouth wide open. She sometimes does this spontaneously, and sometimes when something is put near her mouth. It sickens me to even say this, but many believe that this is a sign of SA, and that she has been trained to do this during SA, and obviously being a child, she wouldn't fully understand the situation, so it's just a natural reaction to her to open her mouth like this outside of those situations. It's important to remember that there is no solid evidence that she has experienced SA, it's just speculation based on her behaviour. It's also been noted that there are quite a few clips of Totu eating food in a shape that could resemble certain body parts, and perhaps this is some kind of advert for people who might want to interact with her, if you know what I mean. They even put up a billboard in public with a painting of Totu eating a sausage. I don't know why, I have no idea what the context is, but it is a bit weird. In general, Totu has been filmed eating some unusual foods, including cloves of garlic and lemons. I'm not really sure why they're feeding her these things. This might not be unusual at all in Azerbaijan though, as different cultures have different foods. In a video of Totu when she was visibly younger, she clearly doesn't like the lemon. She scrunches up her face and pulls it away from her mouth, and whoever is behind the camera encourages her to eat it again. In a more recent video, she doesn't have the same reaction to the lemon, and doesn't seem to mind the taste anymore and eats the whole slice, including the skin. Perhaps her taste has changed slightly, or maybe it's something more sinister, as some have suggested. Either she's so hungry that she'll eat anything, or she doesn't want to get into trouble by reacting badly, or she's just become used to it after being forced to eat it for so long. As I said, there's no evidence of SA, just some questionable behaviour that could perhaps hint at it. But another potentially suspicious thing to note is that there seems to be a number of different men that interact with Totu, and there doesn't seem to be an explanation of who they are or why they're around her. The owner of the shelter is often seen in videos with her, and there are a couple of other women that I assume are either staff at the shelter or the owner's family members, and the rest all seem to be men. There are videos showing Totu sat on these men's knees. Sometimes they'll be hugging and kissing her. There's one video where she's in bed and one of them is waking her up to film her. It sounds like there were less than 10 children staying in the shelter before the scandal, so I don't think all these adults are members of staff because there wouldn't be a need for that many. So who are these men? According to a Medium.com article, the woman's teenage/grown sons allegedly start posting videos showing them cuddling and kissing the toddler. While this may have been perfectly innocent, it seemed to strike a chord with a specific group of followers. After looking into the accounts of some of Totu's more fervent fans, online sleuths found that many of them were grown men who seemed to have an unhealthy fascination with extremely young girls. The point was made sickeningly clear when a trio of 30-something men made the 6-hour round-trip journey from Istanbul, Turkey to Baku to spend time with the toddler. After presenting Totu with an assortment of toys, which remained virtually untouched, they allegedly took turns holding her, bouncing her on their laps and kissing her, and this was just what was caught on camera. For her part, the toddler never offers a whimper of protest as she is passed around from one stranger to another. In the background of the video, the woman who now claims to be Totu's mother can be seen milling about, oblivious to the little girl's discomfort. Netizens have pointed out that pandas feature prominently in the room, which is rumoured to be a code used to entice paedophiles. While this may simply be a coincidence, given that strange men are allegedly paying money to be in the company of a little girl with whom they have no family ties, anything is possible. There is so much to this story, and as I said earlier, a lot of the videos covering it have been deleted, but just from what I summarised in this video, I'm kind of not surprised that people are worried about Totu. You might wonder why the shelter has been posting these questionable videos of Totu. Surely they'd realise that it doesn't look good, and that people would likely try to intervene if they thought she was in danger. One possible reason could be, as already suggested, that these videos are adverts. If it's true that men are flying to Azerbaijan to see Totu, the shelter is likely making a significant profit from her. If that's not the case, it's still possible that financial gain is the motive behind all this, as they have asked for donations to keep a roof over her head on multiple occasions. They seem to have been implying that Totu was once in a bad situation, but now she's in a safe place, and they just want to take care of her, but they need money to do that. It's perhaps worth remembering that it was alleged when the scandal occurred that staff at the shelter were keeping donations for themselves and not actually using the money to look after the children, so I wouldn't be surprised if they've made a good chunk of money from parading Totu online. Yet another question in this story that I'm not exactly sure of the answer to is where Totu is right now. Most of the creators who made videos on her were under the impression that she is still in the shelter and therefore still in danger. However, there is some information that suggests that this is not the case. There is a TikTok user who goes by the name Queen Bashi USA, we'll call her Bashi, who started uploading videos on this case a few days ago at the time I started writing this script. I can't verify everything she's saying because I don't have all the sources, and it's hard to research this case when you don't speak Azerbaijani. Of course, it's easy enough to Google Translate articles or documents that I have come across, but finding those things in the first place is a bit of a wild goose chase. However, I consider her to be a relatively reliable source, as the sources she has referenced seem to check out, and she's not dramatising the situation as much as others have. Anyway, she has cleared up some of the things that people highlighted as shady and stated they were actually things that are totally normal for the culture. For example, there's a video of the shelter owner jumping over a fire. I don't even see how that's relevant to any of this anyway, but Bashi said that's a tradition that's common in Azerbaijan, Turkey, Iran, etc. There are other points of a similar nature that really aren't as unusual as they might initially seem when you consider the cultural differences. According to Bashi, as of November 2022, there is an ongoing lawsuit against the shelter due to the alleged abuse of Totu and the other children that were previously living there. Because of this lawsuit, apparently none of the children, including Totu, are at the shelter now, or being cared for by the owner of the shelter, so presumably Totu and the other children are safe right now. The fact that it seems Totu is no longer in danger is a crucial piece of information that was missing from pretty much all of the videos covering this case until now, and it's the catalyst for a whole heap of drama that has occurred between a couple of TikTok creators in the past few days. The whole point of the Save Totu hashtag was to save Totu. No one seemed to be aware that Totu had already been saved, if she even needed saving in the first place. This could be because the majority of the creators who covered this were Americans, so likely ran into similar problems I did when researching this because it happened in Azerbaijan, but Bashi believes that they may have had a bit of an agenda. She implies that some of the creators intentionally sensationalized the story for views and highlighted that the main creator, Kelz, who popularized the story on TikTok, had a link to a GoFundMe in her bio, with a goal of $10,000 to save Totu. I certainly don't think that everyone who made videos on this were just doing so for views. Most seemed genuinely concerned, and while they did spread some misinformation, I don't think it was intentional. They probably didn't know the full story and just wanted to spread awareness. I'm even wary of accusing Kelz of having an ulterior motive, but despite recent information suggesting that Totu is now safe, and has been for at least a couple of months, the GoFundMe page is still active. And at the time I'm writing this part of the script, on the 27th of February, she uploaded a video on YouTube 14 hours ago stating that Totu is still in the care of the shelter owner and that nothing came of the court case against her because of her father's connections. She doesn't even mention the information Bashi discusses in her videos. Kelz is definitely aware of Bashi's claims that Totu is no longer living with the shelter owner and that this is an active case, as she was communicating with Bashi on TikTok, so I don't know if she just doesn't believe her and genuinely thinks Totu is still in danger, or if she's just trying to sensationalize the story to continue getting views herself. I'll let you reach your own conclusion on that one. This dispute led to Kelz allegedly reporting some of Bashi's videos, then Bashi allegedly got Kelz banned from TikTok, hence she moved over to YouTube. Anyway, beef aside, Bashi went on to translate and analyse various documents, including medical records and letters related to the operation of the shelter, that she claims were provided to her by the shelter owner, who was trying to prove her innocence. Some of these documents were also posted on Instagram by the shelter owner, and others have tried to translate them too, mostly using Google Translate as they don't speak the language. Bashi acknowledged that any of these documents could have been faked, especially considering the position of the owner's father, so take the information with a pinch of salt, but the following is what the owner claims to be the truth. Among these documents were Totu's medical records that mentioned central nervous system damage, epileptic reaction, and delay of development. She was brought to the hospital due to seizures and a fever, and they told the doctor she was limp, didn't walk, didn't speak, didn't react to the environment, and cried when she was touched. The doctor recommended that Totu stay in the hospital, but they refused to allow that. It's worth noting that the date on this letter was the 6th of December 2022. That's after the lawsuit began, and after the concerning videos of Totu were posted online. At this point, the shelter owner had already claimed that Totu's worrying behaviour and physical appearance, including the cuts and bruises, were caused by epilepsy and other medical conditions, yet this medical letter stated that it was the first time that Totu had been brought to the hospital. Another document detailed test results after this hospital visit that stated no epilepsy was detected and no other conditions were detected either. This is absolutely baffling. After seeing the first document about the hospital visit, I had some suspicions that it might have been faked to make it look like Totu's condition could be attributed to poor health, but the test results show that she doesn't have epilepsy, which contradicts the owner's claims. Surely if she was faking this paperwork, it would corroborate everything she said. I don't even understand why she'd provide these test results, knowing that they refute her explanation of Totu's concerning behaviour and potential signs of physical abuse, as some thought. Bashi also translated a court document summarising the outcome of a lawsuit that was filed by a 17-year-old girl who stayed at the shelter and her mother, alleging various incidents of abuse. It was determined that these accusations were false, and due to a lack of evidence, a criminal case could not be established. It even goes as far as to say that the girl should be arrested for false allegations. All these documents just leave us with more questions than answers. Not only can I not work out if they are fake or not, because together they don't consistently prove the owner's innocence or guilt, but there are various inconsistencies that cast doubt on information that was previously clear, such as Totu's age. The first report from the hospital states that she was born in December 2020, whereas in another document, the owner claims that she was born in 2021. This is just one of many details that doesn't make sense, and I'm sure we're yet to learn of various other inconsistencies as more documents are released. By far the most significant piece of the puzzle that Bashi spoke about in her TikToks is the fact that the allegations against the shelter were initially started by another woman who also owns a shelter in Azerbaijan. There were various accusations against this woman too. In fact, she was apparently sentenced for taking bribes and faking paperwork. In relation to what, I'm not sure exactly, but as far as I'm aware, it's unrelated to the Totu situation. So this woman started a bunch of rumours, accusing the owner of the shelter Totu was in of abuse, trafficking and whatever else, then more recently denied ever making these allegations, claiming that other people had misunderstood and twisted what she said. Now she insists that she only said that the first shelter owner is not qualified to do her job and that she should hire professionals instead. Basically, allegedly, this woman started this shitstorm, then sat back and allowed the people of TikTok to do what they do best, sensationalise half a tale and instigate a witch hunt based on next to no evidence. It's not entirely clear to me what her motivations for this were. I can only theorise that it was either personal beef with the other shelter owner, or a smear campaign to put the other shelter out of business, or there's way more to all this than we can even imagine at this point. Either way, this isn't even the first time this woman has been involved in false accusations of this nature. According to an article from September 2020, a girl falsely accused her uncle of abuse after he left her at this shelter, and when she tried to take it back and admit that she lied, this woman wouldn't allow it. The uncle was sentenced to 12 years in prison, and the girl said in the article that he was in prison for nothing. All this information sheds a whole new light on the Totu situation. While I think there were a few suspicious details, some of which we still don't have explanations for, it appears that this was all fabricated by someone who has a history of similar behaviour and a criminal record for other shady activity. Given the fact that this is a shelter, it can be surmised that the children who lived there were abused before they ever even got there, and that could explain the videos where some of them looked dishevelled and unhappy. As for Totu, while I don't know what to believe regarding her medical records, she clearly has some health problems, and they could explain her apparent physical deterioration. It's entirely possible that a lot of the other clips that were deemed dubious were simply taken out of context and that there's a perfectly rational explanation. Given Totu's situation before she lived in the shelter, abuse and neglect can't be ruled out, so in the videos where she looks traumatized, it's possible that she was still traumatized from things that happened to her before she even lived there. Although there are numerous clips where she looks scared and uncomfortable, there are just as many, if not more, where she looks happy and safe around the shelter owner. Now we know that the source of the rumours is highly questionable and that she clearly has some kind of hidden agenda, it makes me wonder if there's something else going on here. Perhaps this whole situation is a front to take the eye off whatever is really happening, because there has to be some reason for baseless allegations to have been publicised in the first place. I don't know, the further you dig into this, the more questions you're left with. I can't blame people who initially covered this on TikTok for assuming the worst. When a child's safety and well-being could be at risk, I think it's important to scrutinise anything that seems off. But there is a difference between drawing attention to a situation and slandering someone without proof. Some of these people were absolutely ruthless with their accusations. They weren't just saying, here's a situation that should be investigated further. They were implying that Totu was, without a doubt, being abused and trafficked. Some were even talking about flying to Azerbaijan and rescuing, aka kidnapping her. But we don't know for a fact that there was nothing shady going on in that shelter. Even the most insignificant behaviours were being framed as suspicious when there's no reason to believe that they are. Anything can be taken out of context and made to look a certain way, and until I see any solid evidence to suggest otherwise, I have to assume that this whole situation has been blown way out of proportion. At the time I'm writing this script, Bashi is still posting TikToks about the case. I held off on uploading this for a few days to see what else she came out with, and have updated the script with relevant info, but I'd highly recommend you follow her for more updates, and of course do your own research, as it seems this whole story has been complicated far more than it needed to be because people blindly followed other people who had no idea what they were talking about. I believe more information is yet to be revealed, perhaps we've only seen the tip of the iceberg, though at least we can be fairly sure that Totu is not in any danger right now, and that's the main thing. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts in the comments, plus any other internet mysteries you'd like me to cover. If you enjoyed the video, please consider liking and subscribing. Huge thank you to my Ko-fi members and channel members whose names are on screen now. I really appreciate your support. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Thursday in a new video.